guys, welcome back to the channel She Embodies Power. I am Natalie. For those who are joining for the first time, I am 33 years old and I am a single mother of 8 children. I'm a social media influencer as well as the host of my own podcast alongside the vlogging for YouTube, and also have a book club which I share with my friend, which is called the Do You Sis Book Club. So yeah, I'm very busy. So for those of you who are joining me for the first time, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you like what you see, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can be made aware of when I post, so that it will just pop up on your phone every time that I post a new video. But anyway, let me get into the vlog. Today is the subject is a little bit sensitive, because I'm going to be speaking to you guys about signs of abuse. Myself, I have been through like some abusive situations in my life, where it's taken its toll on me, my growth, my development and stuff like that. So I'm just going to talk to you about a few different types of abuse. The most obvious one is obviously like physical. So everything is under domestic abuse, but there is different types of domestic abuse. So the first one that is the most prominent one is obviously physical abuse. It could go either way. We're not going to limit it and say that it's just men who abuse women. It's women as well who abuse men physically. And I've like, I always find myself sort of kind of trying to dumb it down a bit, because I went through physical abuse, where I ended up receiving injuries, and I always dumb it down because I always say, oh, like, he didn't punch me, or he didn't punch me in my face, or he didn't like really hurt me, like he didn't break anything, and but it's not about whether you're bleeding or whatever. If someone's physically assaulted you, it doesn't matter to what degree you're hurt. You've been abused, and you're in an abusive situation, especially obviously if it's coming from a partner or even a loved one or a parent or whatever. If someone is physically abusing you, like they're putting their hands on you, then that's abuse basically. And I feel like us, like a lot of women, we sort of say, okay, if it happens to us once, we'll sort of be like, okay, maybe it was a one-off, it was a fluke, like, he just lost his temper, and it's not going to happen again. And if you're lucky, if you're willing to even stick around and find out, maybe it won't happen again. But 9 times out of 10, it happens again. For myself, in that situation, in that relationship that I was in, it did happen more than once. And each time I was just like, in fact, the first time I was like, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? The first time I left him, I moved house, everything. And, after a while, I sort of thought it wasn't that bad. Do you know what I mean? I told myself it wasn't that bad. And I ended up going back to him. And then the next time it happened, it was even worse. It was really bad, as I was pregnant as well. And I ended up with like cuts and bruises and stuff like that. And that case actually did end up going to court, because I wasn't going to. I really wasn't going to, because I was so in love with the guy. I wasn't going to take it to court. But the more I thought about it, I was like, do you know what? I've been abused. I am going to take it to court. And it wasn't until I actually spoke to like different police officers and stuff, and obviously social services had to get involved because at the time of abuse, the when the actual physical attack happened, the kids were in the house, so they had to get involved. And obviously they were telling me, like, does he do things like make you feel a way about yourself? Has he isolated you from your family? Does he control the money? And I found myself saying, yeah, 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 yeah. But at the time, I really honestly did not think anything of it. I didn't think that it was anything like the stuff that he was doing and stuff that he was saying. But I had been isolated from my family. It was things like, he would say certain things that about my family that were not necessarily true but seemed true, but they weren't necessarily true. So I kind of ended up sort of believing the stuff that he was saying, and then before I knew it, I had isolated myself from my friends, from my family. I thought they were against me, I thought they were against our relationship and stuff like that, and that was just so far from the truth. And then I sit here now and look back on it, I'm just like, how the hell did I not see what was going on? But at the time, I was just completely oblivious to it. I think I think it was a lot to do with, obviously, because I was really besotted with the guy. Like, I was fully in love with this guy, and it was just that it was so gradual and so subtle that I didn't realize. Um, you know, so it turned out that alongside the physical abuse, there was also elements of mental abuse as well. And that, I feel like the mental abuse was, even for me, it was worse than the physical abuse, because it was things like subtly making me not love myself and subtly making me not believe that I was strong, or I was, I had any worth and stuff like that. It was horrible when I really think about it now. I have, obviously, I've done a video about this before, but what happened was I ended up getting back with him, which is a very common trait of women who have been through who have been in abusive relationships. They do tend to go back to the abuser. um Obviously, I've worked on that now, so I will never ever ever go back there. But I'll explain why in a little while. So yeah, it was just a lot of, um not believing that I was good enough for any other relationship, who's gonna want me with all these kids and stuff like that. It even got to the point where he was messing around with another girl. He's never admitted it. But the girl, she came to me after we broke up. On one occasion, she came to me and she said to me, she's been with him. So in the period of time where he wasn't with me, where we broke up, or even when we were still together, but he just wasn't living with me, he was seeing this other girl. And it was to the point where just before me and him had broken up, this girl was coming to the house to pick him up, because she was saying that they were doing music together and stuff like that. And me being the naive, you know, no self love, no self worth, no self confidence, me being that person, I allowed him to go. She'd be coming to the house at like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, coming to the house. But obviously she wouldn't come in. She would just pick him up and they would go out, and he said they'll be sitting in a car writing. I know that that's probably was crap. It was, not probably, it was crap. But I wasn't confident enough to keep pressing the issue, because I know I did mention it to him, and he, denied it, and he literally turned it around and said to me that I am acting like the crazy baby mother, and that behavior is what's going to push him into somebody else's arms. And you know what I did? I shut my damn mouth. I shut up about it. every day I had this sinking feeling, knowing every time he said, oh, she's coming to the house, he's going to be outside, I knew something was not right, and I shut the hell up. And I'm just like, now I just feel like I even feel angry about it right now, you know, like how could you take me for a mug, you know? um but I allowed him to, so, you know. But it even got to the point where I was so confused and so hurt and so upset. um you know, like, I think what had done was I had my world, oops, my world began to revolve around this guy, like my whole world. And I feel like in his way he had made it that way, that my whole world revolved around him. And then when I felt like I was losing him and I was losing my relationship, I felt like I was losing myself. So it was at that point where this girl was constantly coming to the house, constantly calling him. They were having all these crazy conversations, you know, while I was sleeping and stuff like that. And when it got to that point where I just felt like I couldn't take it anymore, that was a point where I began to feel suicidal. And it got to the point where, as I've mentioned in previous vlogs, I actually did end up trying to commit suicide over the way that I was feeling. I felt so low and so useless and so worthless and stuff like that. And I ended up actually trying to commit suicide via taking pills. And it was very strange because it was him who found me and called the ambulance and everything. And, you know, I ended up, you know, being okay in the end. But mentally, I was just so damaged. And it was crazy because after I got home from the hospital, the next morning, the team from like mental health, like a mental health team came, and they were like, you know, what happened? And I was just like, you know, I was just tired, just stressed. Da, da, da. When I knew it was a lot deeper than what I was portraying to them. It was a lot deeper than that. It was depression. It was, you know, abuse. It was mental abuse and stuff like that, emotional abuse and stuff like that. And I didn't tell them, and they didn't pick up on it, because they were like, do you know what, we don't think you need any ongoing help. You just need to rest. I was like, yeah. And I was just glad to get them to have them out of my situation, because I was worried that, you know, they were going to take away my kids. That was my main concern. But realistically, that wasn't what they were there for. They were there to help me. And obviously, if I was able to disclose how I was really feeling, they would have stepped in, and that situation would never have gotten to the point where I was then being like physically abused. But obviously at the time I wasn't, you know, in a place to disclose it. So the relationship went on for another, like, maybe just over a year, just under a year, sorry. And yeah, then one day, you know, me and him got into an argument, and next thing I know, like, we were literally scuffing. I was pregnant as well with one of our children. And yeah, it was a horrible situation, you know. It's never nice to be in that situation where, you know, the person who you thought you were going to be with is, you know, treating you in that way, you know. I And obviously, because I was pregnant as well, it was just, it was terrible. It was really, really, really terrible. And as I said, so when I did decide to go to the police, and then I spoke to the social worker and stuff like that, that was when they were saying, you know, did this happen? And it was only then that I realized the extent of the abuse that I was going through. And I was traumatized because I had isolated myself from my family. I'd not cut them off completely, but our relationship had been damaged, you know. Friends as well, and I was literally all alone. When everything came out, I was ashamed to even go back to my parents and my family and tell them the stuff that had been happening, and everybody was just so shocked because on the outside, like, we just look like the perfect family. Honestly, we look like, like goals, you know what I mean? But on the inside, it was nothing like that.